Welcome back to another episode of Memories with Mumbo. I'm here with my dad, Mike Mulvaney. How you doing, Dad?
Doing good, doing good. Getting ready for a fishing excursion.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just talking about it a little bit. We talked about it a couple times in the past week. Where are you heading?
Going to Lake Erie Saturday morning. Got one about a day and a half of packing left, and then we're gonna hit the road.
There you go. So we'll talk about it a little bit more in, I guess, the next episode. We're gonna do the same thing we've done in the past where we'll kind of cut two episodes in one day, and we'll talk about it in the next episode more. But you do this trip just about every year, right?
Yeah, we're probably gonna start every year. We
Yeah.
took a year and a half off there after our first trip, and then now we've gone the last couple years straight. So it's a pretty good trip. So be curious. Always going back.
Yeah. So I guess we'll kind of leave a cliffhanger there. You got to come back, check out the next episode, and we'll dive a lot deeper into the Erie trip and the other fishing trips that you've had and that you got going on coming up. So yeah, I guess this episode we'll talk a little bit more about the past, and then the next episode we'll talk more about the future. Um, you got a handful of walleye mounted on the wall, and we'll show some of those pictures kind of as we tell the stories and um, talk our way through that and show you guys as we go. But how many walleye do you have on the wall?
I've got three. They're all fish from here right out our back porch here. um, they're all Glendo fish, a 28, a 29, and a 30 inch walleye, and just kind of now I can just let them go or wait till I get a 31, I guess. So
Got to keep climbing the ladder. You
yeah,
can't put one on that's smaller unless it's
no,
heavier or something.
yeah, I don't know how it's gonna match those, but it's never know. They definitely had an opportunity this year already. One got off, but never know how it'll be until they get in the boat.
Exactly, exactly. So you got three. Well, I guess we can kind of go chronological. I guess that would make the most sense. And, obviously it's your backyard, like you said. And so you don't got to give away all your secrets on what lures and what depths and all that. I know some of them have just different, you're doing different methods for pretty much all of them, maybe slightly different on that side of things. But, you know, I guess you don't have to give away all your secrets, especially with it being in your backyard there. You don't want to give away your honey holes. So,
Yeah.
um,
Anybody can follow me around and they'll know exactly where I'm at and what I'm doing. So it's not a big deal. I'm not one of those guys, tournament time. If I was back into the tournament circuit a little bit, it might be a little bit different. But no, if I get a kick out of people fishing and being able to catch big fish, and especially kids and people can't come up very often, if I can get them, help them with any information or kind of knowledge, I'd definitely like to do that. So as long as we respect the waters and we have a little kind of unwritten rule with the group that we fish with, and just about, I would guess the locals, just about everybody up here is anything over 20 inches. If you're not gonna put it on the wall, then we put it back. It's a good breeding size. Any in it, 20, 22 to 26, I think are the most active as far as breeding. Um, but anything bigger than that is good trophy fish, and there's plenty that are that 16, 18 range that you can keep those for your skillet and your frying pan, and still being able to keep a real good fishery up here is more important.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, um, when you go to new places, it's kind of one of those, uh, you get excited, you catch some good fish, and you're gonna keep what you can keep, and you don't get to fish it all the time. So, it's like people that go to that lake that don't fish there often. It's like, okay, you caught a couple 22s, good for you. Understand if you're keeping them, but like you said, for you local guys or guys that fish there, maybe they're not living in Glendo, but go up there all the time, like you said, to keep the fishery alive and well. Not that it's at risk by any means, but just to keep it going well and give it every chance to improve for sure. You want to do that. So I like the idea of that unwritten rule. To definitely doesn't hurt.
Now, can only help the population, that's for sure.
So like you were saying, I don't know if I'm getting the dates out of order or the sequence of the fish, but the first big fish that you have mounted, was that the one with all the kids, or was that your second one?
Well, it depends what you consider kids. I had you, your uncle, and your grandpa. So, uh, no, the first one was, shoot, I think you were probably, I'd have to get that picture out, but I wouldn't suppose you were much older than 10 years old, if that. 9 or,
Whippersnapper.
yeah. And I had convinced and talked your dad, I mean, your uncle and your grandfather into going camping. And we went out and camped over in Whiskey Gulch and went out and we decided to fish for a weekend. I think it was 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we were pulling cranks because it's easiest method as far as um, having people that really don't really get around to fishing a whole bunch. Um, when you can set it out, consider it the same as trolling, I guess. To me, it's a lot more in depth than trolling. If you can be satisfied with throwing out a line and just pulling it behind your boat. That's when I pull cranks, it's more of a hunting for walleye. We're looking for the depth of the walleye on the screen, the pattern of bait that's in the water that they're eating, the time of year, the clouds, the brightness, the sun, is it out, the depth, um, all that goes into play. That's why I don't consider it trolling, where you're just throwing a spinner out there and pulling it around the lake looking for a trout. It's detailed enough that there's an app, Precision Trolling. Used to be a book, a Bible. They've upgraded just like everything else, modernized, where now it's right there on your phone and it'll tell you what bait you're using. You plug that in, how far back you need to go to reach the depth of water that you want, which from identifying where that level of water that those fish are hanging out on. Are they on the bottom? Are they up, suspended, chasing bait, chasing. So it's a lot different. But yeah, we came out and we were just gonna pull cranks and we got in the afternoon and it wasn't real windy, but it was getting close to about time I thought we'd have to cook. And old grandpa, he said, "Hey, we came up here to fish. Let's jump in the boat and go." We went across the water and how we ended up where we did, I did, but um we had 2.5 days of great fishing, and we probably, like I said, the fish that I ended up keeping, we had two or three others the same size, close to. This was the best marking fish and colors in the fish, and but there were 28s, and back then, like I said, that was probably 25 years ago. Uh, and we kept a bunch of fish that size. And looking back now, is like we just got done talking about previously, that a lot of those fish we caught that weekend we wouldn't even think about keeping now. But uh, it was just a great weekend of pulling, and just like I said, with all the mounts, the stories that go with them, and how I can remember everything is we were using cotton cordell wally divers, and the hot pattern was a perch. Um, and we just started pulling planer boards at the time back in the day, and we had our friend Mark Elish, he came up the next day with his son, and just couldn't get over the size of fish we had and the fish we were catching. And he followed us. He would let his line out he would say, "Let us know when you're letting your line out." Well, we had line counting reels, so we just clicked the button and they'd go, and then set the reel when it hit the number we were at. And I would guess back then it was probably somewhere around 100 feet. And he had his spinning rod out with a line on it, with a lure on it, same lure. And he was trying to get the same distance back, keeping up with our boat with the same speed. He didn't have GPS, he didn't have counter rods, he didn't have planer boards, and he could not catch a fish to save his soul. Uh, there's a lot of different things that go into play, and I really enjoy pulling cranks when it's that time of year. There's obviously different ways to do it, but yeah, that was the first of the wall mounters, and like I said, back then, 28, that was a big fish.
Mhm.
I've spent a heck of a lot more time on the water now, and have learned more techniques, better techniques at times.
Mhm.
Learned to do some different things with the pulling the boards and pulling cranks. Uh, Learn the body of water. Where fish are, what time of year are they up shallower, or are they putting snap weights on and scraping the bottom. So uh, yeah, that was the first one. We caught a bunch of fish. I think we probably got our limit 1 or 2 days of that, and if not our limit, pretty close to the next. And in Wyoming, you only have a day's limit of possession, so we could legally only have 24 fish. So we did have a really good fish fry that Saturday night before we went out Sunday morning and caught a few more to take home and took our limit. Yeah, that was the first of the fish on the wall.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, like you said, I was young, so I mean I remember seeing the pictures, and um, you know, there's only been a handful of times where all of us, like you said, you, Uncle Brad, and Grandpa, we all were out on the boat. There was maybe only a few times I can remember us us fishing. So I don't remember actually catching the fish, but I've seen the pictures, and so it's yeah, it's been a while ago for that one.
Yeah, yep. It's one of my favorite pictures of I think Mark Ulickshey took it. It's all four of us had good fish, and it was right off the tailgate before we cleaned them, um, working them up. And then my other favorite picture is you and Grandpa. You had the monster fish, and Grandpa had a little baby that hit, or one of the bigger fish spit it out, or whatever it was. But it was fun, good memories, good stuff.
Yeah. So I guess then going into the next one that you have mounted, is this is the one I'm thinking of with all the kids, and it was the just kind of putzing around. We weren't really trying to catch fish type of
Yeah, we were babysitting.
thing.
You were the oldest on the boat at the time. It was about this time of year because no, it was a little bit later. It was for the silent auction that we used to have at the marina for a fundraiser. Um, Friends of ours, two different friends of ours, were going to different directions, Douglas and Wheatland, to pick up some fundraising auction items. And I said, "Well, if we're not doing anything. Well, your kids are more than welcome to go out fishing with us." So we went out, like you said. If we caught fish, great. If we didn't, great too. Not too many times we go out in the water, we don't catch fish, and we just started a thing that had just kind of panned out, played out very well. That I think probably Dylan Blair caught the first fish, and and then Bailey, I think, was the other one with us. She caught a fish. Third one, I think, was a double, and you reeled that fish in, and we just kept going. I thought, well, all the kids have reeled in a fish. Let's just start back over. So the next fish, Dylan caught, and Bailey caught, and then you caught. I think we were at 6 fish. I think all the kids had caught, we were at 5, excuse me. Because we're talking August, a little bit slower fishing. I was actually surprised that we ended up doing a little catching. Um, and I just decided to take a slow route back to the marina to finish our afternoon, and got a little bit deeper water and pulled out one of our lead core reels. And I put a jointed Rapala perch. Like I said, it's how some of this stuff sticks with me. I can't remember what your mom told me an hour ago. I can remember the different baits that we were using 25 years ago. But we had a jointed perch on, and I just put it out there. I put out 5 colors of lead core, and we were pulling the west side of the lake, about where the main channel was going through, and all of a sudden the planer board went off on the inside, and it was your turn to catch one. I thought, oh, perfect, this is great. All 3 kids are each going to catch 2 walleye. Nobody's going to get upset. Nobody's going to get hurt that they didn't catch as many as the other person. So I said, okay, Justin, you reel this one in, and the other 2 kids, they were up watching, and you were reeling it in. I took the planer board off and went over to this side of the boat to set it down, and I saw the lead core line doing this. Uh, wow, that's not a snag, because then it'd bite really hard. I thought, well, oh well, it's probably just a fish. We'll let it go. I mean, we'll get to it when we're done. So you've ended up reeling your fish in. It was a good fish. It was 18 inches, I think. Good keeper eater, and netted it and got it in the live well. And I think you were driving the boat or doing whatever we were doing while I said, well, I'll just reel this one in. I think we got a little fish on this one, and you guys have all caught one, and all the kids were good with it. Didn't piss off any kids for and so I'm reeling it up, and lead core, you got different colors for um the depth, and then after the last color it goes to monofilament, and I probably had 50 feet of monofilament on for a leader. Got to that knot, and then it was just the monofilament, and it's like, holy cow, this is better than just a fish. And I thought, well, it must be a catfish or maybe a carp sucking on the bottom or something. And I was reeling it up, and I said, hey, Justin, let's put that boat in neutral and come back here and grab the net. He came over and grabbed the net, and I said, I think this is a pretty good fish. He goes, and he kind of looked at me and looked at the rod, and yeah, well, looks like it. Like I said, you're probably middle school then. And I reeled it up, and I saw a flash down below, and I said, Justin, this is a really good fish. And you, shoot, didn't even bat an eye. You got back there. I reeled it up, and about the time I was going to say, be careful or do this or do that, he said, wow, Dad, nice fish. Didn't even let me coach you into it or nothing. And done it like old Babe Winkleman, like you'd done it your whole life. And got in there, and I can remember the kids coming, Dylan and Bailey and you just looking at it like, oh my God, holy cow. And we got it in the boat and put it in the live well. And I said, well, there's no way we're throwing this one back. It's going on the wall. It's bigger than my 28.
Yeah.
Sure enough, we got it measured, and got it back to the dock, and uh, I think the kid's mom, Lisa, came down to the dock, and she took pictures of it, and all the kids and me and the walleye. That was definitely a trip. And they just
Yeah.
romper room on the line. Had a good time fishing, and had a bonus fish in there. Not
Yeah.
only fish, but he's a wallfish. So
Right.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was another good experience. That's for sure.
Yeah. So that lead core line, I guess just to maybe add some more clarity or clarification to kind of what you do and why this one was different. Like you had mentioned before, you to this point, I guess in the story, you had been using these uh reels with a line counter that tells you how far out in feet your line is,
With just
and all yeah, and those are all just monofilament, and so that is different than the lead core. And so that lead core, like you said, you had 5 different colors for depth gauge, but that also has, like you said, it's lead core, so it's heavier. And so that line itself was sinking down lower. And then you had that monofilament leader, and it was doing its normal action with the lure at the end of it.
right.
And
Yep.
so, if for just the sake of an example, if all of our lures were at the same depth, that lead core line one was going to be deeper by a certain amount,
Right.
like
Yeah.
a pretty significant amount, actually.
Yeah. Usually when you're pulling, so times have changed and our fishing experiences have changed such that we don't put out, or I don't put out 100 feet of line anymore. I'm usually between 40 and 60. Here, back then we were putting. It was pretty common to put out 100 feet, and we'd pull. At the time, we were pulling number seven shad wraps or uh, wally divers or whatever bait we were using, and that would, if you pulled it, and that Bible I was talking about, precision trolling, which is now an app. It goes. Everything is set for 2 miles an hour and 10-pound monofilament. Now with the app, you can now also do um, fluorocarbon. You can do snap weights. You can put, I believe, spider wire. There's all kinds of different um, gauges that you can put into the app, and it can tell you exactly where your lure is going. Back then it was 2 miles an hour with 10-pound test. And I would say that was taken a number seven shad wrap, probably. I don't know. It's been, like I said, it's been so long since I pulled those that far back. I would guess it would maybe be 14 feet deep. So you were looking at a suspended fish in 20 foot of water, and really they could come off the bottom at 14 foot if it was 20 foot of water. Um, if you were pulling that bait, a, a walleye will go. Their eyes are on top of their heads, so they're going up to feed anyway. Um, they would come off the bottom for that. But like I said, when we were talking about fish, we were fishing deeper water. I believe we were probably 30 to 40 foot at the time. So that's why I put that lead core on. And I would get that lead core, if I recall, I don't use it a bunch, but I think it's either 12 to 8, 12 to 16, I don't know, feet per color. So when I said we were at 4 or 5 colors, that bait was down there. Well, 5 colors times, well, 12, that put it at 50. So I don't know. I know we weren't dragging the bottom, but
Yeah,
um,
close. Deep.
yeah, it was
We're
down.
deep.
It was down there, warm part of the summer, and cooler water was down there. Try to get to them better fish. Um, so yeah, that's we used to do it at McConaughey with your great grandfather all the time. Use lead core. Just never did here, and I just decided to get a couple line counter reels just in case, and put it on, and voila, caught a fish.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I probably used them once or twice since. Got them just in case.
Yeah. Yeah, if you ever decide, well, the bite's not happening, let's putz around and see if they're out deep. Throw them
Yep,
on there.
romper room.
Yeah. So, um, then that leads us to your third one on the wall. And I know you've got some pictures of other fish, so maybe we can maybe share a story or two of those. But of your actual mounted fish, you got one more, and I don't remember the story of it or where. Obviously, it was caught in Glendo, but I don't even know if I was there for that one. So, uh, I guess without further ado, what's this the third one you got?
That one, it was early season. It was, I want to say it was early June, right at the end of school year, and we had always, or we started taking about 3 or 4 days, long weekend, um, with with teammates, people that I worked with from the different schools. We started at Arvada Middle and Oberon, and then even at Arvada West, a couple years we came up with a group of guys came up, and I had come up the week before to kind of just fish out, and you were playing ball, so I wasn't doing the fishing tournaments, but I wanted to kind of scout it out, see where we were going to take these guys fishing because I wanted to get them, a good time and make sure they got onto some fish. And we were out fishing and just decided to pull over an airport here, a stone's throw where we live now. Um, back then we were at the marina, and now we built here closer to it. But um, we were just pulling crankbaits, and next thing you know, we started smacking them, and good fish after good fish. And pretty soon, it was just another fish, and started reeling it in. And I was letting Mark Ulishny, I believe, was the one that was with me. If it wasn't Mark, it was Rod Pignetti. I just got done bragging about how good the memory was, but um, think I think it might have been Rod now that I think about it. But um, we were just pulling those cranks, and he had reeled in most fish. Matter of fact, I think he was reeling in another one, and this was one of the doubles. And I was reeling mine in, just kind of going slow about it, and got his planer board off for him. Just one hand up, reaching off to the side and getting it, and told him, just let me know when you get close enough. I'll net it. And he pulled it close over, and I just kind of grabbed my reel and took it around the back of the motor, and you know, it didn't seem like anything different than a 18-inch walleye. So I grabbed the net, and I'm fiddle dinking with this rod and grab the net, and I one hand net his, put it in the boat, and I go on to reel this one in. Well, come to find out, he was definitely swimming to the boat and was in no big rush. Don't even know if he knew he was caught. He got right to the boat, and it was game on, and he went straight down to the bottom and would not move. And I told Rod, I said, "This is a real good fish. We might want to take a look at this and be a little bit more serious." Or, now that I think about it, it might have been Mark Ulysses. I don't know. Either way, um, took it nice and easy, and would pull him up, go back down, pull her up, go back down. Then it was just kind of a heavy, almost like reeling in a log. And pretty soon he'd come up, and the head was about like that, the mouth was about like that, and it was wide open. It's like, holy cow. And we got him in, and it was my biggest fish to date, uh, out of this lake. I've got
Right.
one bigger, and but that was on a salmo, and that wasn't. Oh shoot, that was probably, I would guess early 2000s, maybe. Um, but that was on a salmo hornet, and I think we were just doing the same thing, just pulling back there about 50 feet behind the board and letting the board out, going right along the weed line there at airport, and got a chance to get that one in. And that's where we're at with our walleye from Glendale. Had one, had one in the river last week. Well, been 2 weeks ago now, and it was my next biggest. And it's still out there. Yeah, she was either in the process of spawning or just spawned out, and never really fought at all. I could feel a head shake. We were just dragging little jig heads that I make, and I could just feel the head shake, and that was it. No running, no nothing. Just kind of, just really just horsed her up. She'd get to the bottom, and she just kind of lethargically would roll over. And Curtis was with me next door, and holy cow, look at that thing in the mouth. I mean, it's so fresh in our memory that it was easily a softball you could fit in it. and, and you definitely doubt that it's the size of a volleyball, but boy, I tell you, it was something to be seen. And she kind of rolled back over and didn't swim away, didn't dive, just kind of swam with the boat, and I was pulling her. Then she got real lethargic again and just kind of rolled over. And when she rolled, her mouth was open, and you could just see my jig in there. And pretty soon you could see the jig floating up and coming out, and she stayed there. And Curtis and I both looked at her like, no, and he went, and it was a foot and a half outside the length of the net, and he you just don't think that quick to extend the net. I think it already was extended about halfway, but either way, it, it was quite the memory. I mean,
Yeah.
that fish. The biggest one I got is 30, and I would say that was 32. 32. It was it was good fish, really good fish. Like like mom said when I came back that day, she said, "Oh darn it, but we saved ourselves $1,000." So
Yep.
that's about what it costs, I'm afraid, anymore to put them up there. And then the only the only bigger one I've ever caught was at Lake Erie, um, and it was 31 and a quarter. Spawned out, kind of a almost a snaky looking. I'll send you a picture of that fish, but um, just you could tell if it was pre-spawn or earlier, she would have been fat and it would have weighed, I would guess, 12 to 13, 14 pounds. But as it was, 31 and a half and just kind of blubbery. I mean, just it was good fish, but you could tell that she'd been stretched out and eggs were released and now had to go back to putting on some weight. But that was a really good fish. So we're leaving there to go back out Saturday morning, and hopefully we can get into a couple more good ones like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. So,
Yeah.
um, I guess that'll kind of wrap up the ones that are on the wall, the more memory based walleye. I don't know any last outstanding walleye memories. I'm sure we're gonna be doing this for a little while, and so if we ever think of another walleye story, we can share that some other time. But is there like a extra special walleye story that maybe isn't on the wall, or just a picture of it, or something like that that you can think of?
You know what? I'll send you a picture of the one I'll never forget when I, I think it was you and I, and maybe I don't even know who it was, Dan Patton, maybe, when we went over to uh, Gray Rocks, and you had just gotten back from Alaska because you had to have surgery on your ankle, and you were just kind of toting around and not doing much there at the cabin and over at the marina, and we decided to go fishing and went over there for the day, and you latched into, I think it was a 28 and a half inch walleye, and got a picture of you with your leg in the boot, and you just sat in living the high life, shirt off and catching big walleye, and just we got, I would guess there's probably 8 to 10, maybe a dozen, I don't know, pictures of in our mudroom there. I'll send you a picture of the wall and or a video or whatever. And they're all, I think the smallest fish in there is a 27, and all those fish are with different, you and Bree and mom and myself. I don't know if we have anybody else. I know that we've since had a couple with some friend kids, Shots, I think we might have a picture of a good one. I know your nephew Brock, he got a 28 that isn't up there, but we've caught some really good fish and have some really good memories with those. So, but that one did stick out just because I was kind of looking at that either yesterday, yeah, I think it was today, this morning when I was going out to the boat. I looked up and mom had asked me if we were going to do our podcast today, and I said yeah, this afternoon. When I walked through there, I looked up and I just kind of glanced at that picture there. But yeah, good memories, walleye fishing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we did it. That's, I mean, probably one of my longest memories aside from like baseball or anything like that. Just activities that we did, like even longer than hunting. I think I remember fishing earlier than I remember hunting, and like you said, we would go all the way back from the days where we would go out camping up there in Glendo, and then it all has evolved. Then we got the place uh there in the marina, like you mentioned. We were there for forever, and then now you guys have the house there that you built, and um, all the different friends that I bring up for a week at a time, weekend at a time, and um, I mean, always going fishing, tubing, having fun up at the lake. But yeah, tons of walleye fishing. And then that one story with my ankle, I just remember. Yeah, I was like, well, there's really nothing else to do. The weather's nice, and the big question was like, would I be able to get into the boat? And so it was like, I got 1 foot, and I had like a little like, uh, it was like a crutch, but not. It was like attached to your leg, and but it was like, well, I can't really like bend that to get up into the boat, so maybe I can like swing my way up. And it's like, if we can get in the boat, we can do fishing. It's fine. It's like, all right, let's give it a go. So we went. I remember we went out, and like you said, I just sat there. I mean, I had my spot with my leg propped up so it didn't get too swollen, and anytime a fish was on and it was my turn to reel it in, it was like, all right, well, it's on your side of the boat. That'll be easier to start reeling. And I'm just sitting there, big old fish. And like, hey, I think I'm thirsty. I'll reel in another big one if you hand me a water.
Yep. There you go.
Yep. So, yeah, fun stuff. So, all right. Well, that wraps up this episode of Memories with Mumbo. Like I said, stay tuned for next week's episode. We'll talk a little bit about the big fishing trip coming up, and all the things that Dad has planned for walleye and such this upcoming summer. So appreciate you guys listening. We'll catch you on the next one.